Okay, the last and final item on the boat that we need to do before we can start rowing is to get the to attach the riggers permanently into place. Now they are not fixed permanently when you receive the boat because we're in transport mode. So everything is in place, but it's not fixed properly. You can see some bolts are moving still, and etc. We need to do this when the boat is being transported because to shrink the size of the boat. That's why it is like it is at the moment. Now you'll need some tools when we do this. You can use a normal grip. You can use a normal like different spanners, and you can use a Allen key. Because we're professionals, we prefer to use electric tools, and that's what we're going to use: a number 10 wrench and a drill with different drill bits. Now the first thing we need to do is to undo the riggers that's in this stage on the boat. Everything is still loose, and we really need to tighten these bolts. Remove these plastic plugs. Now most of the time with this firm grip you can just pull them off. Otherwise you can be very careful and use a pair of pliers and carefully remove them. You need to do that to get to the bolts. It's actually attaching the riggers there. Now this is where you can use the Allen key and the shifting type spanner. We're using our 10 and our drill machine. So we need some more power onto that thing, and we undo it. Now this goes quite quick. I'll save my nuts and washers in the right sequence. We remove the bolt and make sure there are some loose plastic spacer washers inside it, that we don't lose them. Pull the bolt out all the way, let the washers be on the boat, remove the rigger carefully, and remove the spacer washers on the inside of the bracket. Now we've done that. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the attachment on the side of the boat here as well, the bracket. For that, depending on the boat, you might have to use different tools. We undo that one as well, and you can see it was very loosely fitted. Undone, and if we could have, a very long bolt in this case there. And if we do the same over here. Now you don't need to do it, but we prefer to use some kind of Loctite or something onto these bolts. Now there's different Loctite comes in different forms. We use this in this form with the paste. Just attach some of that to the thread of the bolt. Get it into the hole there, and we tighten that down. Now the Loctite has advantage that you won't need to, that the bolt will actually almost be glued in place there. We line it up as good as we can right now, and then we do the same with the bracket on the rail here as well. Some Loctite onto the thread of the bolt. We get it down here. Make sure that we have the line on the inside of the boat, this line that attaches the pin, and screw this down, and make sure we have it lined up with the inside bracket, tightened properly. And then just to get the riggers back on here again. Now remember what we've done before. We had the long bolt, and we had the long bolt to be placed through there. We put in a spacer, move the bolt through the rigger arm here. You've got another spacer. Now this one's a bit tricky to get in there. You might have to line it up a little bit, move it around, get the other spacer in there. This is also, you have to be lucky or have a lot of skill. Now obviously I haven't got either of them at the moment. Bit of luck there, and then we are soon into place. First we put on the washer, and then we put on the lock nut on the outside there. While we're doing this, we make sure that the rigger actually goes into the bracket there. We can attach and put in the split pin over there, and then we tighten the bolt on the rigger bottom. We need the right tools. We do it like that. Now very careful, we don't want to over tighten this. When you do this, there should be some resistance left in the rigger arm. It shouldn't be tight, it shouldn't get stuck, it shouldn't move in any way. And there we are. And then we will leave this for the Loctite to react a couple of hours, and then we'll be ready to row. Right in place here, everything done. One more arm to go. Okay, the last and final check we need to do before we put this boat in the water is just to make sure that the gates and the pins and everything is tied down and properly tightened. Now this is very important. Even after you've rowed a couple of hours, you can actually do this whole process again and make sure that all the bolts on the pins are really firmly attached, because they might work loose with time, especially the first couple of hours you're rowing. So we start off by looking at the pin again. Here we can use different tools. We can use a normal like shifting spanner or adjustable spanner. Just make sure it's of a good quality. Or in this case we can use a number 17 and a number 13 spanner. Now we start off by undoing the bottom piece of this rubber protection and plastic protection prop at the bottom here. And then you'll notice there's a bit of play here. Make sure this is centered where we want it, and then we actually tighten this bolt properly. In this case it wasn't properly tightened, also just in place. This is very important you do this before you start rowing, so make sure this is tight and properly tightened. This is a safety thing, because if this works loose while you're rowing, you don't want to do that. You don't want to go that way. So now it's tight, and I just put on the plastic prop. I put it back there again, protection. The next thing I'll check is if this bolt on top of the pin is tightened. In this case I can feel it's not tightened properly because it's still hand tight only. Remove the plastic cap again. Now this time I'm using a 13 spanner, and I just make sure we tighten it properly. This is quite loose, it's quite dangerous. We don't want that to work loose either. So until it's tight and nice, sitting up against all the washers, and back with the plastic protection cap again. So now this is working. Now the next thing that you would like to do is to make sure that the difference, our boats are normally adjusted when you receive them from a factory, that you row with your left hand over your right hand. That means that in this case this is the right hand, the oarlock on the right hand's right hand. Rowing with the left hand over the right hand for clip that all stunts. This means this is your left hand. It will be on the green side of the boat. It's supposed to be higher than the oarlock on the other side. Now what we're doing, we're using different spacer rings here, and we can move the oarlocks, but you can see we've got more spaces underneath here than on the other side. So the difference between this and the other oarlock should be around about between 6 and 11 millimeters, not more or not much less. You can play a bit between that. But the oarlock on the left hand side, on the left hand that you're rowing with, should be slightly higher, and that you can adjust by moving these spacer rings. And then an absolute final thing that we need to worry about is make sure that your oar will rotate freely in the oarlock. If you're using our standard oars, you'll benefit by doing this by using a 10 spanner or adjustable spanner again. And what we do is we move this adjusting bolt with a 10 spanner as far out as we can, as long as we can lift the gate lock across the gate there properly. So, and as long as I can move that, not too tight, not that this is too tight, but I just move it far enough that to widen this and to make sure that all rotate properly. And then we're done. And make sure that you can actually, haven't done it too much, so you can actually lift the lock, the gate. And then we're ready to row.